Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley here for Pinkfresh Studio. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a holiday card which features some older products from Pinkfresh Studio, but don't count me out just because it's a holiday card. I'm going to show you 3 ways to use the Calico White ink from Pinkfresh Studio to create some different effects on your card. So hang out with me here. You're going to get some great tips and tricks. I'm starting out with the Shelf Edit Magic of the Season stamp set here. This is also available in a press plate, and there is a stencil and coordinating die set available. And I am stamping just that tree onto white cardstock in some detail black ink. So you can see I'm just carefully inking up the tree only with my detail black. And then I am stamping it down using my Misty Stamping Tool. I'm using a Misty Stamping Tool because number one, I can rotate my cardstock and create a couple of different images, but also if I don't get a great stamped image on the first try, I can restamp. Now I'm gonna trim this cardstock down again, and I'm gonna stamp it a couple more times because I am looking for 3 trees in total. I'm gonna create a little tree lot stand. Now this detail black hybrid ink can really stick to your stamps, but the Ultra Clean Stamp Cleaner from Pinkfresh Studio is absolutely fabulous. I just sprayed it on my microfiber cloth and wiped my stamp up, and you can see it cleaned up really easily. Now the detail black is a hybrid ink, so it takes a little bit longer to dry, and since I wanted to ink blend on these immediately, I went ahead and heat set that ink using my heat tool. Now I'm going to go in with the coordinating stencil set from the Shelf Edit Magic of the Season, and I am going to use just 2 stencils from this entire pack to color in my trees. I'm starting out with stencil number 1, which has the little pot on the bottom, and you're going to see that I blend one of the pots in red, one in a pink color scheme, and one in a green color scheme. So my red inks are Passion Fruit and Candy Apple. My pink inks are Ballet Slipper and Coral Reef. And finally, for the greens, I'm using Sage and Eucalyptus. And you can see I'm just making a little bit of a shadow on the right-hand side of these along the bottom to just kind of create some differentiation. And then I use the coordinating stencil to ink up those trees using eucalyptus ink. Now, once I had those ink blended, I grabbed a gold paint marker from my stash and I filled in the little details on the pots just to kind of give these a little bit of shine, and then I heat set those as well. Now it's time to build my little flower stand or my little tree stand here, and I am using the Flower Market stencil set and coordinating die set to create this. I have stencil number 1, and I am inking up just the edges of this using Misty Coast. I want this layer to actually be white, but I want it to have a little bit of shading. And so I'm using a light layer of Misty Coast along the bottom of the awning and around the edges of the actual stand portion to create that shadowed effect. It looks like nothing as I'm actually doing it here on the screen, but you're going to see that blending when I pull up my stencil. Now I have the next stencil, and I'm blending the awning using Passion Fruit ink. And then once I've blended that, I'm going to blend the base using some eucalyptus ink. So this is kind of like the feet and the countertop of the Flower Marketplace here. Now this stencil set actually has a lot more stencils that have like plants and little star garlands, but I am just using the actual stand, the flower stand part of this to create my card today. So after I blended the first layer of color on this stencil, I'm going to go in with some shading. And for the green, I'm using Lush Forest. And for the red awning portion, I'm using this Candy Apple, which will really push it towards that red side. It kind of looks a little pinky before that, but this makes it look red. Now you can see when I pull up the stencils, I have that beautiful shading on the white portion. And I am going to take the die and hold it in place with a little bit of repositionable tape and run this through my die cut machine. Now you're going to see where the plants are kind of built into this design. I'm just taking this over to my trimmer and trimming off that portion where the plant areas stick up off of the Flower Market stand. And then I'm going to trim along these side pieces to leave me with just the 2 supports and that bottom counter piece. So I'm just using some scissors to trim off what I don't want. Now you'll see built into the stencil is that little leaf that kind of is cut out there. I'm just going to mask off the bottom portion of the stand and blend over that area with my blending brushes that are over to the side. And this disguised all of those leaves that are kind of built into the design. So you can really use this any way that you want with the plants that are as it was intended, or you can use it as just a little hot cocoa stand or a little tree market stand or whatever you want. In order to add some dimension to the awning, I'm just creating a score line along that edge, and then I'll fold this over, and that gives me some nice dimension on my awning that I can then attach to my card project in a bit. To die cut my trees, I'm just lining up the coordinating die with the stamped image and running those through my die cut machine, and I'll die cut all 3 of my trees and set those to the side. So let's get into my ideas for using the Calico White ink from Pinkfresh Studio. And the first idea I have for you is using it to heat emboss, especially when you're doing white heat embossing. This makes for a nice crisp white heat embossing because if you miss any areas with the embossing powder, the white ink will show through underneath and it will still look white. So you can see I prepped the surface of this red colored cardstock with a powder tool, and I stamped my sentiment from the Shelf Edit Magic of the Season stamp set in that Calico White ink onto the red cardstock. Then I added my white embossing powder and I heat set that. After the embossing powder had cooled down and set up, I used a microfiber cloth to wipe away any of the excess powder tool, and then I took it over to my trimmer and trimmed this into a strip. Now I decided I wanted to create a shaker card from this flower market stand, and so I cut a piece of the Pinkfresh Studio Acetate, which is amazing by the way, and I attached it to the back of my flower stand using some liquid glue. Once I had that attached, I added some foam adhesive strips along the sides and along the top and the bottom to create a well for my shaker images. I'm now going to flip this over and attach the pink tree here kind of on the countertop of the stand. The red tree is attached directly to the flower stand base there. And now I'm tucking in my sentiment strip as well. And I'll finish my arrangement off by adding the green tree with a little foam adhesive over the top. So now that I have those arranged, it's time for idea number 2, using the Calico White ink from Pinkfresh Studio. And that's to create some flicking onto your card, to create some splatter on your card for a nice effect. Now I'm going to use it for snow today, but you can use it in a variety of situations. So you can see I've smushed my ink pad onto my work surface here. I'm working on a glass work surface, and I just spritzed it with a little bit of water from the spray bottle. Now, my paintbrush was actually dirty, so you're gonna see my white pigment ink here kind of turning a little muddy, but that's okay. It created a nice snowy effect on this dark green background. You can see I'm just picking up that ink that I've diluted with just a little bit of water, and I'm flicking it on to my card front. So this card front will eventually go on an A2 size card base, but I wanted to create kind of a snowy scene towards the top. Now, if I had it to do all over again, I would make sure that my paintbrush was nice and clean so that my snow didn't have a little bit of a tan tint to it, but you get the idea. So while that dries, I'm gonna go ahead and add the shaker bits to my shaker flower market here. So I'm removing the foam adhesive, and I'm going to use these gold glitter dust gems from Pinkfresh Studio. I'm just pouring them directly into the well created by that foam adhesive, and then I'm adding this piece of cardstock to the back to seal it all up. And this cardstock, as well as the acetate that I use, is cut to 2 inches by 3¼ inches, and it seems to fit perfectly. Now, once I have that created, I actually just attach this to my card front here using the foam adhesive that was already exposed and adding a little bit of liquid glue to the back of that shaker window where that sea glass cardstock is. I'm just getting it positioned onto my card front. And then I'm attaching my awning using a double layer of foam adhesive at the top of the awning to attach it to my card. Now, my final idea for using the Calico White ink from Pinkfresh Studio is use it to blend on your card. You can see I'm adding to that snowy effect at the top of the card front by using a blending brush to add this ink. I'm also adding some at the bottom. The one thing I will tell you is you do want to have a dedicated ink blending brush for this Calico White ink so that you don't contaminate any of your other dye inks. So that finishes off my card project for today, featuring some products previously released from Pinkfresh Studio. This is perfect for creating a holiday card, but keep in mind, you can use these techniques with the Calico White ink from Pinkfresh Studio year-round to create various effects on your cards. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the YouTube description below, so if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of the paper crafting, card making, and live stream video tutorials. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.